In the next of our interviews with previous winners, we've brought back two of the three original doubles competition winners from the first competition. We first introduced the doubles competition in 2001, and at that time there were some people who weren't confident about entering the solo, but said they would be happy to enter if they were with somebody else. And we were looking at ways of expanding the competition, so the doubles was born. We've only managed to get two of the three here today. So let me introduce the familiar faces of Mr. Gareth Kidyer.
Hello.
And one half of the Wooders brothers, Mr. Jameson Wooders.
The shy one, yes.
Indeed, the one who would be quite happy entering the solo, in fact had entered the solo before the doubles. But Simon, Jameson's brother, would not, I think you said, Jameson, have entered the solo.
Yeah, I think he needed a little bit of a push, I think, to enter the double, and so we did that together for the first time.
Yes, it was his only time of performing in the competition, I would think.
We did the doubles twice.
Ah.
We did it the first year, and then we couldn't enter the second year, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you now. But we entered the third time just to show it wasn't a fluke. And we happened to win again on two occasions.
So it wasn't a fluke, indeed.
It wasn't a
fluke. What persuaded you to enter the doubles competition?
From my point of view, I suppose it was the new challenge. You've mentioned the solo, and I'd entered that a few times and happened to get placed on the odd occasion. So when the double came up, it was nice to see a new challenge and also something I could do with my brother. We'd been in Berkshire Bedlam for about 15 years dancing together at that sort of point, and it was always very nice to dance with him. So the opportunity to do a jig together as part of Berkshire Bedlam on that stage was too good to miss.
Excellent. And Gareth?
Yeah, it was a chance. I was the musician for Berkshire Bedlam at the time on Melodian, and Jameson and Simon were usually the front two dancers. Simon was a brilliant person to play for because he knew all the tunes, and very often I would not know what tune I was about to play, and I'd go to Simon and say, what are we doing now? And he'd hum it, and he would invariably get it right. It was amazing. He was quite remarkable in other ways as well, but certainly his memory of tunes was much better than mine. And it was a chance to play for, two brothers. I think one of the great things that we did on that night or that afternoon was you had two brothers dancing a double jig, and there's a lot of kind of filial stuff going on there that I thought was really interesting and very fun as well.
It was great fun to do, and yes, me and my brother have always kind of taken the mickey out of each other over the years, so it was nice to have a little bit of rivalry and banter on that stage as well.
I remember it well. As I recall, Simon didn't need to hum the tune to you, Gareth.
No, although okay, it's time for truth here, I think. The jig, I think I'm right, Jameson, the jig was called As the Tide Was Flowing.
Yeah. And
we decided fairly shortly before the event that I couldn't play it. So I played the Blue-Eyed Stranger instead, which worked perfectly well for the jig. And it's actually a very, very similar tune. The reason why it got confusing is because the two tunes get confused in my head, not unsurprisingly. So we actually played a different tune to the jig, but it worked really well. The only sad bit about the tune was that it was also the tune that Gary Omani played just before we went on, I think. Hammersmith did the same, or they did a jig, and they used Blue-Eyed Stranger, and Gary did a bloody brilliant version of it, frankly. But then he didn't have the Jameson and Simon show going in front of him. So
I do remember the Jameson and Simon show well. I think one of the things that it brought home the potential of the double to have that interaction,
Yeah.
which is so much more limited with the solo jig. You could have some interaction between dancer and musician, and of course you need interaction to work together, but the fun elements of that, I'm not sure that it's necessarily been bettered. I think that in terms of that, as you described it, Gareth, that filial interaction.
Mm.
Jameson, your memories of that?
Yeah, I think it was just, as I just wanted to dance and enjoy dancing with my brother on that stage. And it was one of those things where watching the other competitors, as Gareth said, there were some very, very good other double jigs in there. I think Simon Pipe and Mikey Radford danced. A couple of Hammersmith blokes, Darryl was in there with Gary playing, I remember. And I remember when the results were coming out, we didn't really expect to have won because we kind of just went out there and had some fun. So when you announced the third place, well, we thought, oh well, you know, maybe second, and then you announced the second place, and so we thought, oh, you know, we've done all that for nothing. And then of course you actually announced that we'd won, which was a real surprise to us actually. And I think Gareth had even got a gig somewhere else in town, so he
was away.
wasn't even there for the results.
Yeah, it had gone on far too long for me, the whole event, and I had to do another gig somewhere else. So it was a complete surprise. I thought I was just going to play the stuff and that was it. We were done, and to win it was amazing.
Yeah. It was, you know, as I say, there was some very, very good double jigs in there that day, and very, very proud to have won on that occasion.
No, and rightly so. Rightly so. This next question probably more aimed at Jameson, but the competition was originally started back in 1988, and one of the main aims was to increase the popularity of jig dancing. And so the question, Jameson, is how much has the competition, or what has the competition done for your jig dancing?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I first entered because the team I was in at the time, White Knights Morris at Reading University, we did a few jigs, but never really made much of a feature of them. So every stand would probably have the best couple of dancers doing a jig. And for me, when I heard that there was a jig competition starting, it was an opportunity to go out there and get seen. And the you know the arrogance of youth at the particular time was to say, you know, how good I was. But I think on the very first occasion I entered in 1990, I proved how good I wasn't, to be honest, because I didn't actually come anywhere at all. And quite rightly too. There were some very, very good dancers on that occasion. I think for me it was a bit of a kick up the backside to say, you know, that there were, you know, I wasn't the best dancer ever, and that there were some very, very good dancers, and that I did have to raise my game if I was to compete with them on that sort of level. So I did take a break off, went back, learned knuckle down, and put in about 8 knuckle downs where I started doubling up on the slows, and came back again a couple of years later and managed to get second to Sue Graham. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just a way of, I think I just love performing in a way, and yeah, Gareth's laughing.
That's news to both of us, of course.
Sorry.
That's news to both of us, of course.
Yeah. Who knew that?
I think it's been a wonderful arena over the years to just turn up and show off and enjoy it. And I think after I won in 1996, I think the pressure was off, and I've been able to enjoy it a lot more since then. I think after that, I didn't have anything to prove anymore. So I think the odd occasions I've done it since then, it's just a question of just turning up and enjoying it, and hopefully the audience enjoys it too.
Indeed. That leads me on to a question. I'm going to ask Gareth this first, but I'm sure Jameson will also have a view on it, and rightly so. Where would you like to see the competition go? Any changes you'd like to see? Gareth, you've always thrown in the line, oh, it's far too long for me, although a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but any thoughts?
It's interesting. As you know, 2 years ago, I did a piece with Lisa Haywood, and it was the Shepherdess Hay that she created and devised herself. And she did it because she was, she said, there's too many young fit boys jumping up and down. There's too much height, there's too much kind of physical activity going on, and we're losing some of the dance here. And she tried to kind of do her idea of what it would be like from her position. And I think that was a change for me. And I think there was a change when the boys did get really athletic a few years back, and the height was amazing, and the athleticism was amazing. And I think that's moving on, and I think there's change coming again. So I think the thing will evolve and keep evolving as people change within the tradition.
Excellent. Jameson.
I think I'd just like to reiterate what Gareth says, really. Thinking beyond the jig competition, maybe into Morris full stop. I think some of us learn the steps, we learn the figures, and think that's enough. And I think learning how to dance above and beyond that is quite important. And so yeah, I think I'd like to reiterate what Gareth said, is that for someone to turn up and just dance and have something to say in that dance as well, and that could be anyone of any age, shape, form, gender, whatever, just turn up and dance. As simple as that. You know?
Okay, excellent. It did occur to me, as we hold this competition for the first time as a virtual competition, that perhaps the whole future of Morris dancing is jig dancing, perhaps jig dancing badly, where you have just one dancer, one musician more than 2 meters away, and no audience because it's not worth watching. Social distancing to perfection. But of course, that's somewhat tongue-in-cheek. We're hoping that next year we'll be back live in Sidmouth because we're missing it massively. And we'll have a bigger competition than ever. It certainly has been a joy. You mentioned the just enjoy performing. That has been levelled as a comment about myself, and I've had the great joy of emceeing every year. I've hogged the emceeing since the start, and I've loved seeing this competition continue to blossom and develop. And I think that for it to continue, it does need to keep evolving, as everything does. So I like what you're saying. I agree.
I have to say, I think that the actually playing for the jig competition was easy. I think judging the next year was an absolute minefield. And I had all kinds of people coming up to me afterwards telling me my fortune, which was quite interesting. So I think you probably need to, train your judges up better to be resilient, and probably not write down everything they think as well.
Yes.
The judges always get it wrong, don't they? Anyway, let's face it.
Oh dear. Yeah.
But not in 2001, of course. You hasten to.
No.
Oh, they got it right, and 2003. That's not the only time.
I guess, Jameson, you'll be soon ready for the over 40s, won't you? When does that happen?
I don't know. I've long gone past the 40 mark now, and I don't know. I'm wondering whether I might still have a jig in me at one point. But I think it's a question of not just entering every year, but waiting till I've got something to say.
Yes. Well, we are. The three of us are linked by both being. All three of us being incredibly young, but devoid of hair on our head completely, and so yes, there's. But I'm sure there's a jig or two in you yet, Jameson. If Simon were here, is there anything he would add? Impossible question for you, but
he'd probably hum the tune to Blue Eyes.
I'm not sure he has actually.
He's a man of few words. Yeah. Right. He's a man of few words, is Simon.
Yeah. He doesn't really do technology, you see, so he'd probably still be trying to log in. I took some time, but he'd probably still be there trying to dial in.
Well, I'll just end on an anecdote that links what you were saying about humming the tune back to John Gasson. because John, as a musician, was a fine musician, but he also could at times forget the tune. And there was a memorable occasion with some champions at Towersey Festival, and John was on the stage playing, and we started the dance, and I remember thinking, he's playing the wrong tune. My second thought was, doesn't matter, we can do it to this tune. John on the stage, meanwhile, thought, I'm playing the wrong tune. No worries, after 8 bars, I'm going to cleverly change to the right tune.
Oh.
At which point he changed to a different wrong tune that we couldn't dance to. And as was our wont back in those early days, when something went horrendously wrong, we had a spontaneous bundle. And so everybody pitched in. John came off the stage first, head down, and we all beat him up. And as he was on the ground being beaten up, someone was humming the correct tune to him. He then went back on stage, played the correct tune, and the dance went ahead. And nobody who saw it that I've spoken to had any idea that that wasn't totally planned.
Yeah, excellent.
So you can get away with it sometimes.
On that note, I'm going to confess about 2003 then, the second time we won the competition. Simon and I did Go and Enlist, which is, you know, is a non-stop double jig. So instead of one dancing, then the two dancing, you're both dancing continuously. So it's quite a knackering jig. And at the end of this, we did a galley to face in the final jump. And I could see that my brother had given everything in this dance, and he was about to fall over, literally. And somehow he managed to contrive to land on top of me. So we actually ended up having a bundle on the end of the jump competition, and I think it managed to make it look deliberate. So we
Yes.
got away.
Well, I think helped by the fact that the filial competition between the two of you the previous time had been such that everybody would have been expecting that, perhaps. Well, that's an excellent note to end on. Thank you very much, both of you. It's been really, really great having the two of you.
Thanks, Chris. Good luck.
Okay,
Yeah.
take care. Good luck with the show.
Yeah.